Hey folks, Alan Mandic, the Hot Rod Hippie here. This week's video, we are back in Pennsylvania in my dad's shop to check out his 65 C10 pickup truck. We're doing a follow-up video to my previous one where we're going to check out the work we got done on this thing, so let's check it out. So in the previous video of this truck, I did a walk around where I showed where the project was at when we were getting started on it a few months ago and really hitting the ground running. So now we've made a bunch of progress. I made a handful of videos about this. You can find them on the channel based around the bead rolling that I did on this thing, some parts we used in it, and you can check those all out on my channel and see different things we're doing with this. But I'm gonna give you a quick general overview of all the work we got done in the mad 3 weeks that we really hit the ground running and thrashed on this thing. This truck's been a lot of work to this point and it needs a lot of work yet. But it's a lot of manageable little things that need to be done along the way to getting this thing into paint and rolling down the road. So let's check it out. So let's start here back at the back of the truck. At the back of this truck, we have the fuel tank that I did a whole video about building this fuel tank that's mounted between the frame rails at the very back end of the frame. Just some quick details, the fuel tank has a built-in fuel pump for the EFI LS-based engine that's in this truck. And something that wasn't in the video for the actual fuel tank is we did add the filler neck into this thing and put the mounting tabs to put this thing directly on top of the frame rails back here at the back. Now, sticking out like a sore thumb is there was no bed structure in this thing previously. Actually, when I started this project, the bed was barely bolted together, just kind of sitting here mocked up. Now the bed is bolted together and it has an internal bed structure, a new raised bed floor that's above the rear step notch. This is great because it's going to provide a nice flat bed just higher up above the rear suspension so the suspension can cycle fully without interfering with the bed. Along with that bed structure, there's now these inner wheel houses and bed enclosures to the side, so it's all a nice clean closed off look once it's all metal finished, seam sealed and such. Now currently you see the bed structure has some plywood in there, but it's just filling the space of what will be a hardwood finished floor later on down the road. Now something else that has changed here is the Porterbuilt rear suspension in this truck. Now the Porterbuilt suspension previously had a panhard style locating arm. Now the panhard bar was a single bar locating the rear axle side to side in the rear suspension. Now we have converted this rear suspension to a Watts link suspension, which uses 2 bars and a center pivot arm to go ahead and locate the axle dead middle of the truck. Now the reason we changed to the Watts link over the panhard bar suspension that was in this truck is we were having interference issues with the wheels hitting the bedside. The panhard bar just moved too much side to side as the suspension traveled, so at some point in the suspension travel, the wheels and tire would interfere with the fenders on the bedside, and it was just not going to work out driving down the road. Anything we would do would just be a band-aid to make it work, so we decided rather than narrow the rear axle, we went ahead and converted to this Watts link rear suspension, which keeps the axle centered dead middle of the truck as it travels up and down. Now when we move on up to the front of the truck, we got a lot of work done up here as well. We got the steering column mounted in here and got a single steering shaft in. This was a big feat in my opinion because a lot of these trucks you'll actually see they have multi-piece steering shafts, and I really don't care for that. I like to have a one-piece steering shaft if I can, meaning it only has 2 U-joints and 1 shaft tying those together because I feel that those steer smoother and more reliably than the multi-joint setups do. Along with that, we got the headers mounted, we got the accessory drive setup on there with the new Camaro water pump and the ICT billet brackets I did a whole video about on the accessory drive setup here. And the biggest project up here was definitely the inner fenders. These inner fenders were a project because this truck being so low, the wheels actually travel up past the fenders into the actual engine bay area, up into the hood. So we need to have plenty of clearance in there so driving down the road, the wheels can travel nicely, but not get debris and junk into the engine bay. Along with that, we had to install switch suspension hood hinges onto this thing because the original hood hinges on a 65, they actually mount on the inner fenders. Well, now the inner fenders are gone, so we had to have cowl-mounted hood hinges installed in here. And of course, you see this really neat temporary windshield my dad put in here because the truck's gonna have to be transported down to North Carolina where he's moving to in the near future. Another project up here was to mount the radiator. I needed to know where that was gonna be for the hood and for all the other things that were coming into play, so I got that mounted directly to the core support. I eliminated the original mounting design and welded flanges onto this aftermarket aluminum radiator for a cleaner, simpler mounting design. Overall, this project was weeks worth of work. It was a lot of work, and it was fun work. There was a lot of challenges in here we had to overcome, a lot of heading 2 steps forward and 3 steps back as we were going. That's the way these projects go sometimes. There's a lot of work left needing to be done on this truck before it's ready to roll down the street, but we got over a lot of the major hurdles. So I'm happy to see it to this point and see it down the road from here. All right, folks, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, drop it a like. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you want to see more project stuff like this in the future? Do you want to see more of this truck itself or some other projects around the shop? Let me know. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more content like this every week. Thanks for coming around, folks.